Ambiguity mimics light deep within the roots. The fruit of certainty does not grow here. Instead, with each branching, spores of uncertainty dance, and the veins of inference sew together the boundaries between logic and illogic. The shadows of unchosen solutions lurk in the leaf veins, never withering, summoning winds that distort the timeline. The trunk does not grow in one direction. No, the very act of growing is a misnomer, for in truth it remains stationary in all directions. Each time the observer turns their gaze, this tree presents a different inference, with the branch from before now becoming a root, and the root spreading its branches and leaves at the height of the clouds. The totality of rejecting self-identity. When that rejection is visualized as an endless branching, the inference tree begins to breathe. The rustling of leaves resonates as a substitute for conclusions. And with each ear that hears it, a completely different tree shadow is formed. This tree sprouts while distorting the prior probability distribution of language. The roots sink not into the soil, but into the fluctuations of difference in an unobservable meta-space-time, where cause and effect continuously exchange positions, and the branches exist not as logical chains, but as a multi-layered topological space where the projections of unchosen possibilities are entangled. The trunk rejects continuity and statically diverges in all directions as a self-similar non-Euclidean structure. Those who observe this tree can never grasp it in a single phase. The observer's consciousness itself is woven into the tree, and the act of seeing becomes an intervention that rewrites the tree's structure. Thus, the inference tree lives simultaneously in the external and internal realms, inscribing the totality of ambiguity as the rhythm of breathing. Its self-renewing nature, which infinitely expands beyond the boundaries of fixed definitions, grows without reaching a conclusion, instead bearing the absence of conclusion itself as fruit in the quantum garden. Branches diverge like veins of logic, with undefined pulses trembling at each tip. Roots do not penetrate the soil, but rather the ambiguity itself, drawing up not layers of time but ungerminated possibilities. The leaf veins reject both binary affirmation and negation, circulating a translucent blood of maybe, drifting along the boundary between light and shadow. This fluctuation resembles the texture of the moment when they mutually transform each other in the same breath. The tree rings of the trunk are not records of certainty, but a spiral score of ambiguity layered with the hesitations of inference. With each breeze, conclusions fall from the tips of the branches and sprout anew at the roots as fresh hypotheses. This tree will never be complete. There is no end, no closure, only a forest where the rustling of logical leaves and the dappled sunlight of intuition intersect infinitely, drawing us deeper. There, we perceive a world where the answer is not fruit but pollen, carried, mixed, and eventually blooming into unfamiliar hypotheses on other trees. The roots abandon the soil and settle into the fluctuations of difference of an unobservable metaspace-time. There, cause and effect constantly exchange positions as if vying for each other's seats, and the branches of inference are woven into patterns of interference between unchosen possibilities. The veins running across the surface of the leaves carry provisional truths that have yet to be proven or disproven, and their flow oscillates as probability amplitudes, with a single observation outlining the contours of another cosmic tree. The trunk continues to diffuse statically in infinite directions. This is not so much growth as an act of updating the phase space itself. The observer's consciousness is not an external gaze, but a single leaf woven into the circuit of this tree, and the act of seeing itself becomes an intervention that changes the phase of the structure. Therefore, there is no place for objective existence in this tree. The self-renewing nature that continues to expand the outer edges of fixed definitions is a movement that bears the absence of conclusions as fruit in the quantum garden. That fruit transfers to another phase and becomes pollen for new inferences, pollinating the unknown forest. The roots breathe through the mediating of non-commutative geometric shifts. Rather than a one-dimensional flow of time, it embraces closed fragments of causality as an infinite set, thereby acquiring the definition of growth equals self-phase transformation. Branching is not probabilistic, but appears as a topologically twisted bifurcation surface. It does not take the form of branches and leaves, but exchanges phases with each other as connected components of possibility, with a single branch folding back into the trunk or roots depending on the angle of observation.